acceptance of being force-fed stuff through broadcast is something my son will never, ever accept. But there's a better way now. And the better way is that if you can use technology, and particularly use clever recommendations, the trails of data we leave, our database of intentions, to sort of engineer serendipity via the internet, let you bump into stuff you didn't know you were going to like, but you're probably going to be more likely to like it than something that randomly appeared late night on Radio 1. I think that's fantastic. I think the locality element is in some ways even more interesting, because certainly in the UK, the vibrancy of the music scene was fundamentally based around very tight geographies, the pub. And now you have to go and get a risk assessment to do a gig in a pub. But you can still have a locality that's virtual around fandom and meeting up that previously was impossible. And I think both those elements are very exciting. So I don't think there's ever been a better time to be into specialist music. It's not to say that there's a commercial market for all of it. Music existed before markets. It will exist after markets if markets ever die.
I think this applies to music, but it applies more generally. That, I mean, for me, one of the sad things about the first phase of personalization on the web was that it was this sort of shop for me. You know, separating people out into their own personal silos, I think, is a very, very sort of scary aspect of personalization. And to me, the most exciting aspect of like the second wave of the internet was that got turned inside out. And it wasn't just, you know, getting my personal radio station on Last FM, but it was seeing who else was listening to music like me and giving me the ability to connect to those people. And to me, the third stage of this, and you know, if you've not used Meetup, started by like one of the most, I think, amazing entrepreneurs on the web, a guy called Scott Heiferman in New York. You know, that is about then taking, you know, the connections that, you know, become apparent on the web, the ability to sort of like break down niche by niche, interest group by interest group, block by block, zip code by zip code, and actually bring people together in the real world, in real world locations. And specifically on music, I think, you know, live music is actually the only part of the music industry that is growing, because in a world of abundance, the only thing that you can command a premium is something that has scarcity. You know, there are services, plug for one of the companies we seed funded, Songkick, that, you know, is saying it's all very well to discover recorded music, but how do I discover live music? To me, like, you know, phase one was personal, which sucked. And phase two was sort of like the social version of personal. And hopefully phase three, there'll be, you know, the physical elements of it as well, which to me is like where locality becomes exciting. And that's not just about music, it's about everything.
I think actually the real issue about where does public service and music interface is it's got to actually not be about what you broadcast when you've produced it, it's about the creation of it. And this is not the view of Ofsted. That there is a personal view that we are eroding the ability to give people the freedom to express themselves musically through our education system. And I think there's a lot that we need to do about that. And I think that's actually where the public service comes in. I think there's an incredible innovation out there in the voluntary sector trying to challenge this. And I think it takes inspirational head teachers, and particularly at primary, actually, to get there and grasp that. But that's where it should be at, because otherwise we're going to lose the ability to produce it altogether. And in terms of that sharing bit, I think it's gone beyond the control of the public service. My son, music he listens to is all Bluetoothed between his mates. It's stuff they get, they've often produced it themselves, they're Bluetoothing it amongst each other, and it is incredibly local. And I think there's a lot of myth about what you get opened up through the internet. Actually, for kids, a lot of it is actually very local. It hasn't moved from the locality, they're just using different mediums of communicating with the people who sat in the bedroom next door to them through a brick wall. And they're just Bluetoothing the music to each other now, as opposed to yelling it out the windows, which, if you've heard some of the kids' stuff, is probably a blessing, frankly.